We're going to go now to 5 minutes to Mr. McLean.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'm going to ask my questions today. First of all, to the NRCan representatives here, and I believe that's Ms. Scharf. In July of 2021, NRCan did a consultation paper on people-centered just transition. So July in 2021. Parliament was not sitting, and Parliament ended in August of 2021. So no politicians, no public officials that are elected had any input on this study. And yet you're confident that that paper you came out with actually had the input of Canadians. It was open a very short period of time. Can you please explain, number one, the timing, and number two, if you can table that in the House of Commons as far as its thinness of input from what you've received?
So in July 2021, we launched the consultation around the just transition legislation. I may ask my colleague Rasheen Reid just to confirm the document in question is in fact the discussion paper that was released. Yes, so it was in fact the discussion paper that was released. So the discussion paper was really to prompt discussion and engagement with a whole host of Canadians and stakeholders around what should be in the legislation. So that is the purpose that it played, and it continues to be in the public domain, and we continue to seek input from Canadians. We've received over 17,000 submissions so far. The comment period is open until the end of April, and in addition,
let's go into that then, Kate, because it's a little deeper than the question we have time for here. Let's ask about that 17,000, because when you wrote this document on March 30th, it was 16,000. So you're saying there's 17,000 individual types of responses, or are there a bunch of form letters you're getting in your office?
I'm going to pass that over to Rasheen Reid, who will be able to comment on that, please.
Yeah, so there are a number of form letters and letter writing campaigns that are a part of that number. I can.
Thank you. Thank you. That's all I wanted to know, and I appreciate the quick response. Back to you, Ms. Scharf, because I think there's a few other things you want to address here. Part of the transition vulnerable sectors we're talking about here account for, I'm told, 70% of Canada's goods exports that we're talking about. So this employs over 800,000 Canadians, and somehow we're going to price ourselves at a disadvantage to our competition here in some respects. How do you think we're going to have an export economy if we continue to drift this way? We don't have in Canada closed borders here at this point in time. So how will this affect our export industries?
Well, perhaps what I can say is that the Government of Canada is making quite a number of strategic investments, many billions of dollars. In fact, there's been a number of different numbers quoted, from the $9 billion in the most recent emission reductions plan to the $100 billion in previous plans. And these investments are to help the clean energy economy get built up, other natural resource sectors to be part of the net zero economy, and to strengthen those sectors and to create jobs. So there are quite a number of investments being made across the country to help build those clean energy systems and to help Canadians use clean energy.
Thank you very much, because one of the things you talk about here is sustainability. So let's talk about a sustainability from an economic perspective. Number one, we're going to give up our export business in Canada. But sustainability, every one of these $100 billion you're talking about, the government continues to throw money at, is money that comes from the taxpayers. And sustainability means that eventually these jobs will have to pay for themselves. Right now, none of these jobs pay for themselves, and they're continually subsidized both at the production level and at the consumption level by the Government of Canada. How do you think this is sustainable going forward?
So all I can say is, look, there are investments being made to build important industries that are going to be part of the net zero future. And the work that we're doing on the just transition is to help make sure that we have the right workers in place for the jobs that are going to be there and available.
Because you'll realize they're mostly in provincial jurisdiction that we're talking about, number one. So, you know, you're allocating money, but at the same time, you haven't actually looked at where they're going to be affected province by province. So there's some holes in what you're doing here. You're already allocating money without, as my colleague pointed out earlier, actually indicating where the money might be spent or on what sectors. So a little macro before you're actually dealing with the details here first. But I'm going to echo what my colleague, Mrs. Jones, said, in that we're actually looking at so many consultations here with the public of Canada. They are confused with what you're actually doing with this government here. You've got how many different levers you're pushing on the Canadian people. What business is looking for government to do here is provide some kind of balance, some kind of actual base going forward here, and something business can say, this is what the landscape looks like going forward. Any comment?
Look, there is an emissions reductions plan. Oh, sorry.
You can finish your thought there,
Okay.
and then we'll move on to our next.
There is an emissions reduction plan that was released last week, which provides a blueprint for how we're going to get to 2030. So there is information around the types of actions and activities that are going to take place and the types of questions that still need to be answered. And the Just Transition consultation will help support that by understanding how to bring the jobs, the workers, and the communities to where they need to be as we move to net zero.
Great, thank you.